Welcome to another episode of the A-Team at New Beginnings Farmstead. I'm Elisa, and today we have Ryan, we have Julie, Egidio, and we finally have Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Welcome.
Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome, Jeff.
We are very excited to have you. Actually, we missed having you around this maple season. Jeff was deployed. Jeff is in the Air Force, and he had to spend some time overseas. And is there anything you can tell us about that experience?
It was fun.
Well, we
You're
did
a little
miss you,
closer.
and we try to keep you included in everything. We try to keep you included in everything we do, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. But the first thing we were going to talk about today is it's almost wedding season. We have our first wedding of the season actually in just a few weeks. So we will be getting ready for that very soon. And we wanted to talk about some weddings we've had here on the farm.
Definitely some interesting experiences for sure.
Yeah. Starting with actually our wedding. We were the, what's that look? We were the first
Well, if you
wedding.
remember, Jeff was the one that offered either one of us an opportunity.
Yes,
to
he
get
did.
before the ceremony started.
He's an equal opportunity man. He went to you and said,
No, I went to you first.
okay, tell us about it.
No, as the stressful situation was unfolding.
Why is it stressful?
Second marriage.
Yeah,
Second marriage for both of us.
both of them, family.
And
First-
I forgot the ring.
Why does that? Oh.
That's true. That's true. You did forget the ring. Yeah, I was actually walking up the driveway. I had Turner, my little guy at the time. He was so little. And he was going to be giving me away. And I had all three girls, all three daughters. We were walking up. And then suddenly Connor comes racing past us. And we're like, what's happening? What? And we were all like, oh no, is he getting sick? What's wrong? What's wrong? And he's like, Egidio forgot the ring. And he came running past us and then running back up.
I had one job.
You had one job. Yep. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't really any unforeseen issues really with our wedding. We were expecting very bad rain that day. And so I figured out, you know what? As you always tell me, you pick the day, God picks the weather. So I bought a whole bunch of clear umbrellas because I'm thinking, well, at least the pictures will be cute. And I got red boots for all the girls and Turner and myself, red rain boots in case we needed that. Didn't need it. It was nice and sunny. So now we have some clear umbrellas that have been used many times by different wedding parties.
Yeah, we used them recently.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, we
I think
did.
that's a good segue, right? How many weddings have we had where the weather has turned, or has turned, started off raining and then cleared up?
Right, both directions. We've had situations where the morning is terrible and they're planning for the worst and they get tense and right as the ceremony is about to begin, the sun comes out and it's beautiful. It's beautiful for the rest of the night. They have a wonderful wedding. And then we've had other situations where we're loading people in and racing to get them to the field so that they can have a ceremony and it starts to pour.
We had the one this fall where they had the ceremony under the tent, and we were shipping them with the clear umbrellas
Right.
from the car, and we only had so many umbrellas, so it was like, take this umbrella. They walked over to the tent, and then I had to run back in the rain and get the umbrellas and bring them back over, and then keep doing it. And there wasn't enough space under the tent because it was not Plan A. And then there were people standing outside of the tent in umbrellas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. With an outdoor venue, even though the barn is indoors for your reception afterwards, the ceremony being outdoors, you have to prepare for anything. And everybody loves a good spring wedding where the temperature should be, 70 degrees and sunny and a little breeze. Or in the fall when, you're looking for that mid 60s to 70s. And then you end up with a wedding like mine where the last week in September, it's 95 degrees and we're scrambling to set up tents and move drinks, and spent that morning an hour and a half in a field full of sunflowers, cutting down hundreds of them to decorate with. And they were beautiful when I left. And apparently they didn't stay beautiful.
We went up to, I don't even know why we drove up there, but for some reason we drove up to your site and you were already down getting ready with the groomsmen, and all of your beautiful sunflowers had fainted.
Yeah.
All their heads were collapsed over, and I was like, oh no, now what? And there was what, 100 of them?
Oh, there's probably 200.
Yeah, it was because Ryan had gone all out. It was absolutely beautiful the way he, after nurturing and talking to the grass and making it perfectly green, and he set up everything around the farm, around the area, and you had posts
Yep.
that had tulle wrapped all the way around the field where your guests were sitting, and each one had sunflowers. So I grabbed my kids and we raced down in the mule. Do you remember this, Jeff? We gathered up all the returnable water bottles that we could find. And we grabbed you got buckets of water. We brought them up and pulled all the labels off the bottles, cut half of them off so they were clear, like a clear vase. And
We made them non-returnable.
yes, we did. Yes, we did. And we put water under every group of flowers all the way around.
And it
Yeah,
helped.
it did help. Yeah.
It definitely helped. And, that speaks to a few of the instances we've had where last minute you have to scramble to try and do something because when the weather changes, you have to be prepared for anything. And, we do this regularly during the fall. We do it every single weekend. And we haven't seen it all, but we've definitely seen a lot when it comes to planning and under planning and people that aren't prepared for the unexpected. And we have definitely made some last minute changes that we had to scramble to make it work. But again, behind the scenes, people don't really know. I mean, if you think about every wedding that you've gone to at any venue, there's always stuff that goes wrong, but it's just a matter of whether you take it in stride or whether it becomes a big production and then it's in the middle of guests and everything else. We just kind of work through it. We come up with a plan and make it happen, whether it's changing from chairs to benches or moving an entire ceremony site that took hours to set up in a field and moving that and the arbor and the flowers and all the decorations and every chair or bench back down here to the barn under a tent or vice versa. We're prepared to have a ceremony on the concrete and a bride or groom will change their mind and say, nope, I want it in the field. And we will pack everything up and put it on the trailer and away we go and get it set up.
Yeah, we've done that a lot, actually. Quite a bit.
More than is ideal.
Yes,
We tell them, I
definitely.
mean, we had the rehearsal dinner. The one day we had the rehearsal dinner, and at one point, I'm stealing the mic quick, and Jeff came over. You were mowing the back field for us to get ready for the ceremony, and you had just come down, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to go home. Do you need anything else?" And as you were standing there, the future bride came over and said, "Hey, we're ready." And I said, "Okay, great." And she said, "No, I mean, we're ready to go up to the field." And I go, "To the field?" And she said, "Yeah, well, take us up to the field. It's a rehearsal on the." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it's already set up there. And she said, "No, not the small field, the big field in the back." And I go, "No, not that field. The wedding's at the small field." And she goes, "No, it's not. It's at the big field." And you just got done mowing it. To be honest with you, the big field wasn't even mowed.
Right.
We were, getting ready for hay. And I remember you turning to me and you said, "I'll call my wife and tell her I'll be late." And you hooked up the wagon and right.
You just can't get excited.
Yeah, but the best part is
Yeah.
with that wedding, because he was mad at me because he thought that I didn't prepare or tell him where the wedding was supposed to be. So,
Man.
oh, he was angry. Yes, he was, because he called
You
me.
weren't there. It was him and I.
You were because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
My kids had a swim meet, so I was at the swim meet, and you called me, and I said, "No, that's not where the wedding is." But I got home from the swim meet, and I went up in the dark, pitch black out, mosquitoes, bugs everywhere, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I mowed the big field because the bride wanted the wedding in the big field. So we mowed the big field. We moved all the benches to the big field. And in the morning, when she went to the big field, she goes, "I was wrong. It wasn't this field. It was the other field."
Yeah.
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 So I said, "Told you."
I apologize. And just like Jeff's saying now, he said that it's okay.
Yeah. So we had two
Right.
We're
big
gonna make it the
fields.
best day ever, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's not just the rain that becomes an issue. The extreme temperatures, the barn wasn't heated. The barn is not cooled. So when you have a wedding that you're planning for 65 degrees and your cake shows up 6 hours early and it's 6 tiers high and they bring it in and they're not concerned, whoever made the cake has no concern. Once they get paid and they leave, it's kind of on us to make sure it's okay. And it was not okay. Buttercream frosting on a 6-tier cake does not hold up well when it's mid 90s. So the creative engineering that we did to make sure that this cake stayed upright, and nobody had any idea. No idea
Yeah,
whatsoever.
we've had a few cakes that have.
It actually looked better after we got done with it than it did when it showed up. But
Yeah.
just does not work. You have to think about stuff like that. The creaky floor. Remember the creaky floor underneath the cake? That was another one we had. They didn't want to use a spool for their cake and their sweetheart table. We had there was a smaller table that they had. The cake was very clearly too large for the table that it was sitting on. And there was one board that rocked just a little bit, and it just so happened to be where it was. So every time somebody walked by, the cake would shake a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And we ended up cutting cedar shakes and shims and screwing them to the floor and through the table that it was sitting on so that the floor and the table didn't move with the cake on it.
Yeah, we've had some interesting. We've had several weddings where the wedding band was forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
left in a hotel room, left in somebody's car, left
Oh,
home.
Yeah, and some people are, like Jeff said, you take it in stride. For us, it's, I'm sorry that happened to you, but, when you're from out of town and your hotel is only 10 minutes away, you kind of draw straws and whoever can get there the fastest and find the ring wherever it happens to be and get back here before the ceremony starts. We've had a couple of those. We've had a couple of
I've had more than
search
one group.
parties.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Where they thought they lost the ring, and then in the end of it, there it was, right where it was supposed to be.
Gosh, we've had so many people lose the ring. Yeah.
Yeah. So for any prospective brides and grooms, make sure that you put it in a place that's safe, that you know that you are not going to lose it and not forget. Write it on the front of your hand if you have to. Make sure you know where it is.
To a wedding here, but my brother-in-law got married in Colorado years ago, and they decided to put the ring around the dog's collar, and it got lost. And we were in a park, and we searched for hours and days afterwards, and still have not found the ring. So be mindful if you want to bring a dog to your wedding. That is a very risky move.
Oof.
Tying the ring.
Yeah.
We've had
Oh
several
my gosh.
balls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, the very first wedding that we had, they had a Great Dane was the ring bearer. Yeah.
Use secure wire.
Yep. Yes.
So it's interesting on these things because we have a set of benches, and the one wedding we mowed the grass the night before, and we got up there to clear it, and it was dead grass on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't go fast. Remember that one? We had to rake it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the good thing is they don't remember.
Well,
The
they don't
bride and
know.
groom don't remember.
They don't know. The bride and groom really don't know because we clean everything up and we have everything. We do a lot of work, a lot of rushing around to make sure that everything is as they want it to be. Right? It's their day. We go above and beyond to make sure it all comes together.
I believe it was Christina's wedding when the kitchen did not work.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had, as the wedding ceremony was going on, we were running the food from the upper kitchen into the house, so the chef could finish cooking, and nobody knows. So,
Right.
And that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
there is no indoor place for the caterer. So the caterer is either just out in the open air or under a tent, and it's as exposed
Right.
to all the elements as all we are.
But in this case, they rented a stove,
Right.
and the stove didn't work.
And came up with the idea of using the barbecue. So we came down here with your truck.
Right.
You drove up that hill to it. We loaded it, brought it down. Oh yeah, forgot that one.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice offering of the farm here is that you don't have a specific caterer that you're tied to. Anyone can bring in whoever they want to bring in. We see a lot repeated here. There tends to be a lot of barbecue as the theme, but we've seen some pretty interesting variations. We've seen food trucks, really, fun food trucks, pizza ovens
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
sit down, plated meals and
We've had full 5-course plated meals. They rolled in with a mobile kitchen that was in the back of a 24-foot box truck. It was set up just like a commercial kitchen, and they did excellent. I was skeptical at first to serve, very, very, very high-end food over that many courses and that many dishes for, I think that wedding was probably about 110. And they did very well. They had plenty of staff and fully equipped, and everything came out of that truck. All the food and all the dishes, everything was ready to go.
the best part is that we all get the food too.
Yes, yes. I'll get to eat it too. But we also did, we've gone at, like you said, everything from a several course plated dinner to a pig roast,
Right.
where they roll in 3 or 4 days in advance because it's a slow cook thing. And
Right.
we've had everything from that and in between. It's interesting. It's always interesting to see what the brides have as their vision.
Now, because this is going to be on you to tell it, but at one point there was a wedding where the groom was, let's just say, kind of, there was some things they had to work through to get with the family, and you were able to talk his language about some hockey stuff.
yeah.
Remember that? And he was great. Everything you calmed him right down.
Yeah, Brandon and I were able to keep everybody level-headed
And sometimes that's all it takes. It just takes a listening ear. It's a very stressful day for the bride and groom, and people in the wedding party that have been put under a ton of stress to help plan these things. And you just listen. If they have a request, you do the best you can to fulfill it and be as accommodating as we can. We can't change the world, but we can absolutely try and fix things.
What's interesting was at one point, the groom and his family had some issues working out some stuff, time frame, whatever. I guess there's whatever worked, and then like 20 minutes with you and Brandon. Really, remember that at the
Yeah.
20 minutes, and it was just all about hockey. I couldn't understand. It was like a different language to me. And all of a sudden, he walked down there, and it was just a whole different person. You took all the stress right out of him.
well, that's what happens, right? They're so wrapped up in the wedding and the day and
Right.
trying to make sure everything's perfect, and it's not perfect.
Right.
Just,
And we do our best
they
to hide
figured
it.
that out. And
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Perfect is an illusion.
Right. Right, because none of your guests have any idea what it's supposed to be. You can go to we do weddings every weekend in the fall, and we know what to expect here. But as a guest, you have no idea what's supposed to happen. We've had a couple of repeat guests that have been here for multiple weddings, but you don't know what to expect at all. If something happens and you can mitigate it before it becomes an issue, no one has any idea. No different.
You can find greenery for the rocks.
Yeah, one of the locations where we have the weddings is this beautiful backdrop of exposed rock face. And you all took so many years to clear it off, and it, was originally overgrown. And this one wedding, they wanted it to look more green. And so, it's like, okay, well, do you want me to cut down some trees? Do you want me to get plants? And how are they not going to wilt? It ended up being okay.
Yeah. Well, tell us what you did. You went in the woods, some scissors.
Did. I tried to find some hardy, shrubby plants that would not look like a disaster, and I placed them precariously up on the rocks, and it looked.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, it was beautiful for the next wedding too. They kept it right up there. Like, oh, that looks great.
Interesting. It is interesting that what something that I've noticed is that all these folks think they're doing something unique for their wedding, right? Like my wedding's going to be different from everyone else's, and we're going to do this and this and this. And when you are a person who doesn't work at a wedding venue and you only are going to friends' weddings or every so often, it may seem unique. But when you host a wedding venue and it's weekend after weekend, you see that folks who think they're doing something unique is actually something that's often repeated. So we'll see, the same kind of favors or the same kind of setup or the same kind of, whatever it is, decorations. And it's just interesting to see how there's trends
Right.
in wedding design.
Right.
The favorite is when they forget to tell the guest that it's a farm wedding.
Oh,
On
yeah.
an
Oh,
actual
yeah.
Farm, and people show up in non-farm clothes.
Non-farm shoes.
And that's okay. It's
6-inch
They're-
6-inch stiletto heels are my favorite, and they,
Well, because you run one of the hay wagons, so you
Right.
know, right?
and some people do very well. I got to give them credit. 6-inch stiletto heels walking across a wet, muddy field. Some of them do very, very well, and other ones they don't even want to get off the wagon. They were completely unprepared for what a farm or a barn wedding would be. And again, be mindful of your guests. Make sure that if that's not what they do, that you clearly inform them that their footwear choices should be checked out beforehand, just in case.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do tell them that when they come to see the farm. I advise them that they should put on their invitation that it's at a farm.
Right.
And I also tell couples that they should put on their invitation that the wedding starts 30 minutes earlier than it really does.
Right.
Because we have had weddings where everybody's late.
Right.
And then you have the stress of, the bride is trying to stay on a timeline and, well, there's only a handful of your guests here. And
Right.
then suddenly they all come at one time. But, and for us, it's not, that big of a deal personally for us here at the farm, but for the caterer, for the DJ, they're the ones, the photographer, you're paying for that time and they're not happy.
And depending on if they're having their wedding up at the field, you can't just roll in and just hop up into the seats. We have to bring you up there. It's a process. And we definitely see people. I mean, some of the weddings I've been to, I feel like there's people that are coming either while the ceremony is happening or after the fact. It's like, we'll see you at the reception part. You missed
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's another part about being here for all these weddings is, even though we all have a job and we're all busy trying to get stuff done, we hear everything, especially the guys that are parking cars and the guys that are running the wagons, because that's the first impression when people get out of their cars and they're walking across to get on the tractors to go up to the field. You hear what they have to say. Oh, wow, this place is beautiful. I love it. They couldn't have picked a nicer spot. And then other people are like, there's no air conditioning and there's bugs and flies and it's very dusty. And this is not.
Is that a
It's
snake?
not my thing. Yeah, is that a snake? Yeah.
I highly recommend everybody's gone to weddings before, but to be on the other side of the weddings.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different weddings, right? There's the wedding you go to,
Right.
and then the wedding you observe as a third person. And
Right.
trust me, much better to be an observation on the third person.
And I have always been a crier. at
Yes,
weddings.
yes.
So when I started coming here, I cried certainly for the first, until like the
Last year was the first time, like we had a wedding and you didn't cry, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Julie
We
is
just didn't
not
see her cry.
And these are
crying."
people I've never- And when we observe the wedding, we're like a good couple 100 feet away. So I can't even hear sometimes what they're saying. But it's just like, this is so amazing. And that I just feel like the collective love in the space.
You're gonna cry now, aren't you?
Yeah.
I remember the first time that you came to a wedding, Brandon, who is Jeff's son. You were sitting a little bit away from us, and you were sobbing. And Brandon is looking over at you, and he just looks back at us, and he goes, "Amateur."
Jaded, like I'm a doctor that does too many surgeries and I don't cry.
Yeah, you didn't cry last year. It was shocking to everyone.
See how our next one goes. I'll try to get the waterworks going this time.
So we have a wedding coming up.
We do.
That
We have
is
a wedding in July.
July. So it's 3 weeks away.
Yes.
Wow.
We have a wedding in July and then all of fall. That's usually when we do the weddings are in the fall. Yep.
Very
Actually,
good.
a good friend of mine, her daughter's getting married here in October. I'm very much looking forward to that. Yes.
October in the Hudson Valley is amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Or it could be 95 degrees.
But it's 95 degrees in the spring now too, so
That's true.
Don't start.
Global warming.
Global warming.
right.
Well, I think that's about it for this episode, and we hope you join us again, and we're hoping that you like and subscribe. And that's it.
See you soon.